What's good, guys? It is Reborn back with another video, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm tired, boss. I'm tired. So I was originally, right, going to make a video talking about what the potential next DC fighting game could be, because obviously we just had Mortal Kombat 1, which obviously finishes service. So I was thinking, all right, it's time to discuss what the next DC fighting game is going to be. I made this whole list and everything of concepts I want to see. Then we get the news, oh guys, Injustice 3, that's the next game coming out. Whatever from this, leak from an artist or whatever. So I rework the entire script, the entire list, have to re-record another video. Guess what I see when I wake up? Oh no, another Warner Brothers leaker comes out and says Injustice 3 is not the leaked game, or is not the next DC fighting game. So now I have to go back. Now I had to go back, make a whole new script. And guys, I'm tired. I'm tired, guys. So listen, Warner Brothers can flat out come out tomorrow and state that, oh yeah, Injustice 3 is the next fighting game. I don't care. This video is getting put out. All right, let's discuss what DC fighting games I think would be better concepts as opposed to a Injustice sequel, right? So obviously, as you guys know, Mortal Kombat 1 is finished, right? NetherRealm is more than likely cooking up their next fighting game. It could be another Mortal Kombat title, but I'm hoping that it's going to be DC, simply because of the fact that, for one, DC needs a win gaming wise, and also, like, I feel like Mortal Kombat is kind of tired right now. Give it a break, right? The question is, right, what is the next game going to be, or what concept should they use for the next game, right? I think all of us DC fans are starving for a fighting title in general. So I'm just going to talk about some concepts that I think would be cool to see materialize as a DC fighting game, right? First things first, we have Mortal Kombat versus DC. Now, the original Mortal Kombat versus DC obviously was a cool game. In my opinion, I played it when I was like a kid. I was like 12 playing this game, right? A lot of people, like, at the time didn't really like it, obviously, because for one, I'm pretty sure it was like rated like teen or something like that. It didn't really have blood or anything like that because of the heroes and things like that. I'm trying to remember what they were called. They weren't fatalities, but it was some heroic something. And in my opinion, right, this would be a decent enough middle ground, right? If they don't want to go full DC or full Mortal Kombat, what you do is you go Mortal Kombat versus DC, right? Obviously, this game would be a pretty great seller. Mortal Kombat is like pretty much, Taylor Swift when it comes to fighting games right now. Like, that shit's gonna sell regardless. And DC is kind of in a restructuring period, so I think it would make sense to have, it kind of just have it with Mortal Kombat to kind of see, okay, how is, like, what does the interest look like for the DC universe in general, right? I think having the two universes of Mortal Kombat and DC clash, you could have it be where we have the Mortal Kombat 1 universe, this newly rebooted universe, and maybe we have a more traditional DC universe, essentially clash, something. The story could have something to do with, like how we saw in DCKO boss battle. If you guys read that, we saw the heroes being sent to respective worlds in order to build up Omega energy, and what they could do is, maybe instead of it being them, it like the heroes being sent to the Mortal Kombat universe to build up Omega energy, it could be a case of them just being, displaced, something like that. Comic book shenanigans, right? Something to do with Booster Gold or something like that. The Mortal Kombat heroes end up getting intertwined with whatever conflict is underway, right? And this, in my opinion, would probably be the least likely option, and it would be my least favorite personally, just because I do like DC versus Mortal. I do like both DC and Mortal Kombat, but I would just prefer a DC, game on its own personally. I also think that the concept would have happened already if they were, really going to go through with it. I mean, and also it is like, Mortal Kombat is pretty brutal, and I do expect that the next DC title is probably going to be more violent, but I don't know if they're going to want to put some of their guys like Superman and things like that in that brutal of a nature. We did have, Injustice, so who knows, they might use the Injustice characters. They had Suicide Squad kill the Justice League as well, which was pretty, like, quote unquote dark. So DC might just, kind of let NetherRealm do whatever it is that they want to do. I definitely do want to see blood and gore, or whatever the case may be. So listen, I'll take whatever compromise I have to get. Next up, as for what concept I think could be cool, I have some sort of DCKO adaptation, right? This is something that I pitched a while ago. I probably took the video down because that was like very early on when I was making like videos, but I would imagine that for this game, for the next game, they would probably want a big concept to work with because, character rosters and things of that nature are pretty big in fighting games. Like, that's one of the main things that we discuss when a new game comes out is, okay, is this roster good? Is there diversity? Things of that nature. And DCKO pretty much involves, majority of the DC universe. With all of these games as well, I'm expecting that the NetherRealm is going to take some creative liberties, of course, so it's not going to be a one-to-one adaptation. I just want the concept of these situations to be used, right? This comic event is perfect for an adaptation because it's literally a tournament style arc, but just comics, right? So for one, you have a good enough roster, you have DLC packs, you have interactions. It's pretty easy money for them here. And there is also like the tie-ins as well. Like the boss battle tie-in alone would feed us. Like they could make a whole like episode pack or whatever the case may be just off of the boss battle segment, right? I definitely would want them to make the story focus a bit more on the heroes dealing with the craziness on Earth due to the tournament, and also like switch back between the tournament, right? Give us more fights as well. Like in the tournament, I like the fights that we saw, but I would have wished, like, I want them to draw. I would want the game to draw out the tournament a bit more. So obviously in the comic book run, I can't remember how much heroes. I think it was like 16 that made the final cut. Bump that up to like 32 in my opinion. Just have more fights go on. Bro, I want it to be like Mortal Kombat 9 where like we're seeing characters pop up and they just immediately start running the ones. That's what I want it to be basically. The story for this game is gonna eat the campaign because there's so many little storylines, Galactic Slam, Night Fight, Impulse Point, whatever Aquaman was going mad that whole event. So I think the game would have a nice little thick campaign, and there's plenty of characters and storylines they can use to sustain the game. This would probably be the best case scenario in my opinion. The only thing is, would they be able to turn this game around so soon after the event ended? I don't know if that's the case, but once again, for DLC, the Absolute Universe characters, that's perfect. That's the perfect introduction point for them. Obviously, Batman is already in Lego Batman, but you can introduce Wonder Woman, Superman, and I think who else? I think it was just the Trinity that appeared in Boss Battle, if I'm not mistaken. So that is what I would, do if I was DC. Have DCKO be the next event because it is also still relatively new, so there would be a lot of hype surrounding it, right? Next up, I have Deceased, right? Deceased is an Elseworld story. Why did I say it like that? In the DC universe where the world is overtaken by zombies. This would be a very interesting concept story-wise. Like, I think the story for this game would be better. But as we go on to this list, I'm going to start to, show some, reasons why maybe this game wouldn't work as much as a fighting game, right? I do think the biggest issue with a Deceased title is this story doesn't really feature as much, big DC characters, if that makes sense. With the DC fighting game, you're going to want that cool factor. You're going to want normies to hop on this game to play with their favorite characters. But a lot of the cast is very different, and it's not the cast is not what casual fans are going to be used to, right? Like 90% of DC's big hitters get offed in like the first 4 issues. Like, I'm not gonna lie. And for DLC, they're gonna have to get like really creative with that because, like, once again, a lot of people die in this event, and it's just like, I think it would be cool. Like, it would be a great fighting game in general, but it's also like, a lot of the fights in this series, it doesn't really have enough, I think, to warrant an entire game, right? Like, I think if this was a cute little side project or something like that, like maybe, this is a game that you throw on, like, I don't know, the Switch or something like that. Not the Switch, but maybe this is like a little game you give us to tide us over. I think this would be better as a story game. I definitely think it could be a fighting game, but I think it would be more interesting than an Injustice sequel. But I don't know, with the cool factor and everything like that. Like, I'm just thinking about some of the characters that die, and like, it would probably be pretty shocking to people to like see all of those guys just get offed immediately in the story, right? Like, they could, change it up a bit and have, okay, this guy survives and this guy survives, but it is very much so like in Injustice, for example, there are a couple characters who are like smaller, who like don't really get as much spotlight in like bigger events and things and such. But like for deceased, we're talking like C-listers, you know, getting the spotlight here. So I don't know if it would drum up enough interest. That being said, right? Next up, I have one of my favorite DC comic events ever, guys. I would love for this series to get adapted into a game, a movie, whatever the case may be. I want to see this somewhere, right? We have Forever Evil. This is a new 52 DC Comics event, and it is very underrated in my opinion. You know, I'm a sucker for seeing the villains come to the spotlight. Listen, guys, this is great, right? So we see the villains of the DC universe. They essentially have to step in for the heroes after the heroes, you know, the Justice League is presumed dead, and the crime syndicate basically takes over the world, and they invite all the villains to join them in, you know, taking over the DC universe and pretty much making the world do their bidding. All for the roster. The Justice League do appear in this event, so you can have the Justice League, the Crime Syndicate. You know, we got Black Adam, Captain Cold, Nightwing. Nightwing plays an interesting role in this story. Let's just say that. You know, Jessica Cruz makes her debut in this story. There is so much stuff in this event, guys. Like, this would be perfect story wise. There's a great roster of characters. Great roster. This also leads into another storyline in the New 52, which I think would also work as a fighting game, but I don't have it on this list. The Dark Side War, I don't have it on this list just because I think, you know, it is kind of like an event that requires baggage in my opinion. So I think you would do this first and then you would do the Dark Side World, right? There is tons of fights in this event, guys. There's a lot of popular characters featured. There is, like, this event has so much going on for it. Lex Luthor takes the center stage and is recruiting all of these bad guys. I'm geeking out over this. I love this storyline so much. I think this would be a great, you know, event. We get to see, you know, some villains take the spotlight, and this leads, like, I remember I was so happy reading this event for the first time because the ramifications that comes from this after, you know, later on in the New 52, of course, like, we see Captain Cold. He's kind of like a good guy. This is a fighting game video. Why am I talking about this storyline? But all in all, I think this would be a great fighting game. DLC is like the only thing that I am kind of like on, because this is an older like event, so things like that. But they could once again just add, you know, like, I don't know, the Ninja Turtles or something like that. They would definitely take some liberties, of course, so they could add characters that were previously not featured in the event and things and such like that. So I definitely think, you know, with DLC they can get creative. And then the last thing on my list, right? Surprise, original, right? They could do something original. I would prefer an original title over Injustice personally. I'm all for that. Like, NetherRealm, surely they've had some concepts cooking up, I'd imagine. You know, do something completely out of the ordinary to keep us shocked. Maybe we get like an absolute universe DC fighting game or something like that that has a quick turnaround, similar to like Injustice, not Injustice, Invincible versus, you know, something like that. I would love to see, like, you know, a Green Lantern, Blackest Night, you know, sort of fighting game. Green Lantern, Sinestro Core War, you know, any type of event really would, you know, any type of concept really would be interesting to me. DC has a very, you know, great lineup of events, which is kind of why I'm shocked that they would even think about, you know, potentially doing in Injustice 3. I think Crisis, I don't know why I don't have a Crisis on this list, but I do think a Crisis makes a ton of sense because obviously the world is literally, you know, going destroying itself, right? So what you could easily do is just, you know, have a bunch of characters fighting each other for the you know, I guess, you know, they for keeping their universe, right? It's kind of like Secret Wars, basically. They could do that. There's a ton of concepts that NetherRealm has to pick at. I really hope Injustice 3 is not the next fighting game, even though I have a love-hate relationship with that series. It was like my first comic book that I ever owned. It was the first omnibus I was gifted. You know, Injustice 2 was like the first fighting game that I really started to get good at. Played with my friends, so I love Injustice, but I think it is time to pass the torch on to the next thing. I would be excited for any, like, they could even do like a Batman focused fighting game with how crazy his roster is. There's so much they could do, and I think they would kind of be wasting it doing another Injustice title. But let me know what you guys think about the next DC fighting game. and what you would be most excited for. Personally, do you want an Injustice 3, or do you want to see a new concept, or do you want to see them pick up an existing concept from DC Comics? Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.